I hope we are live now. Yep, cool. So we will wait for like 2 minutes for people to join in. Till then, yeah, let us know how are you guys doing. Keep the chats live. We'll be checking the chats. I hope everyone is doing good, having a great time. Yeah, people are joining in. We'll wait for 1 more minute, and after that, we'll get started with our session today. Hi, everyone. Cool. So, welcome everyone to Flutter Festivals 2022 by GDSCVIT. I am Jeevan Johan Verghese, an Intercom member of GDSCVIT, and I will be the facilitator for Flutter Festivals this year. Before we begin the session, how are you guys doing? Like, are you still at home attending online classes or college is open for you? Let us know in the chats. For us, the college has opened, and right now I'm taking the session from hostel room. So this is a new experience for me as well. Cool. So if you have reached campus, how are you feeling right now? Like after attending a lot of online classes, finally you are on campus. How does it feel to be on campus? How do you feel when you attend offline classes after a long time? We just had a few classes today and yesterday also. So yeah, let us know in the chats how are you guys feeling. Okay, cool. I think we can get started with our session. I will share my screen now. Let me know in the chats uh, whether my screen is visible. Cool. I hope my screen is visible. Let me know in the chats. Yeah, so someone is enjoying offline meetings. Yep, we all were missing offline meetings for a long time, and finally we have got a chance to attend offline meetings too. Yeah, I hope everyone is enjoying that. By the side, I'm taking a look at the chat section also. That's why I'm looking at my phone in between. So yeah, I hope my slides are visible. Cool. So once again, welcome everyone to Flutter Festivals by GDSCVIT. We are so excited to have you all on board for this journey. We hope you all are also equally excited. So what are Flutter Festivals? Flutter Festivals are a series of events led by Google, which is led by Google developer communities, and which will help developers like you to get your feedback in Flutter. And also, we will be featuring Google technologies like Firebase and Google Cloud. So it's going to be a series of events where you can learn more stuff. Cool, that's Flutter Festivals. And before we move on to the session, let's quickly take a question. Which of the following apps use Flutter? So you have option A, Stadia, option B, Google Pay, option C, BMW, option D, Alibaba. So let us know in the chats that which of the following uses Flutter. Let's see who's going to get it first. I'm waiting for answers. I know there might be a slight delay in the stream, so I will wait for some time to see your responses. Come on, let's see who's going to get it right first. You have 4 options. Option A, Stadia. Option B, Google Pay. C, BMW. Option D, Alibaba. Who is going to answer first? Cool, we have already got some answers. So we'll wait for like 15 seconds and let's know who's gonna get it right. We have already some answers in the chats. Great job, guys. I think you all are thinking really hard. Okay, final 10 seconds. After that, we will see what is the right answer. Okay, we have some answers. Nice. So if you have given any answer from this, you are right. Because all these are made in Flutter and all these are featured on the Flutter site. So all these apps are made in Flutter. Great job, guys. Ananya has answered that all of them. So great job, Ananya. You got it right. And everyone else who answered, Google Pay also, you're also right because it's also made in Flutter. This question doesn't have a wrong answer. Great job, guys. Cool. Let's move on. So why are we learning Flutter? Why should we start learning Flutter right now? As many of us, you might already know that Flutter is a cross-platform SDK. What do you mean by that? You have a single code base. You write a single code or make a single project, and you deploy to multiple platforms, including Android, iOS, and now even Windows and Mac, and also for the web. So you write a single code base and you deploy to different platforms. How cool is that? The whole idea of cross-platform is really amazing. Like it's obviously gonna reduce your development time a lot and make your life as a developer a lot more easier. And also it has an expressive and flexible UI. So we are going to use a language called Dart to develop Flutter applications. So unlike Android, so if you have done Android before, in Android we use XML to make the designs like the layout, and we write Kotlin for the code, right? So in Flutter, we are going to use Dart to build the UI and also for the logic. So we are going to use Dart for both these purposes. Cool. We will see in today's session, what we are going to see is we are going to see an intro to Dart, and then we are going to make our first Flutter application. For the purpose of Dart, we are going to use a platform called Dartpad. We'll be sending the link on the chat, YouTube chat right now, so that you can also follow the link. I will share the link in a moment. Yeah, the link is available in the chat. You can go to Dartpad. Some features of Dart are listed here. First one, it's statically typed, type interface, type inference, sorry, my bad, type inference, null safe, and multi-paradigm. We're going to see what does this mean. So what is statically typed? Statically typed means the type of the variable is known at compile time itself. Like Java is a statically typed language, C++ is also a statically typed language. So similar to Java and C++, Dart is also statically typed. And what is type inference? Type inference means the type is inferred. So if it is statically typed, what is the need for type inference? We will see that in a few moments. And next one is null safe. We'll see null safe also in a few slides. What is multi-paradigm? We have different kinds of writing code, right? Like object-oriented programming, functional programming. So Dart or Flutter supports multi-paradigm. So it supports different kinds of writing codes, like object-oriented programming and functional programming both. Now we will see what is type inference. So we're gonna go to Dartpad and we are going to type down some. You will be seeing this by default, like there is a for loop printing hello. You can write your code here. There is a place called console where our output is going to get printed. There is a section called documentation. We will see that in a moment. Okay, so I'm now going to clear everything inside this main function, and I'm going to write the typical classic first line of code. I'm going to print hello world. Let's run this. Yes, so we have officially started learning Dart. Great job. Now we have just started exploring Dartpad. So this is the console where you will be getting the output. First thing that we are going to see in Dart are variables. It is very similar to other programming languages also. We'll see what is type inference and everything right now. Let me introduce a variable called num1, and I'm going to use the keyword var for that, var num1. I'm going to give it the value 10. Let me print this, num1. Before running this, just click on this num1 and see the documentation part. You can see that the data type is int or integer. So we gave a var here, but the data type is int. So this is what we mean by type inference. So the type of this variable was inferred from the value of this variable. So that's what we mean by type inference. And at compile time itself, it knows the data type, right? So that's why it's statically typed. Let's now print this. It's going to print 10 for sure. Yes. Now let's have another variable called num2, and I'm going to give the value as 10.5. And let me print this. It's going to print 10 and 10.5, nothing very special here. If we hover on num2, it's of type double. So it is inferring the data type on its own. What are the major variable types that we have? We have integer, double, boolean, string. So these might be familiar for many of you. There's one thing called dynamic. So what is dynamic data type in here? We'll see that right now. First, let me have a var called num, and I'm going to give it a value 10. Now let me try to assign string value to this num, and I'm going to print this variable. Run this. Oops, we got an error. What's the error? A value of type string can't be assigned to a variable of type integer. This variable num has a type integer, and we are trying to assign a string value to this num. That is not possible. So a variable of one type cannot be assigned a value of another type. For that, what if we want this to happen? For that, we are going to use the keyword dynamic. Now let's try to run this. It will print the name. How did this happen? Num is a dynamic variable. First, it had an integer value. Now it has a string value. So this is possible in dynamic. So that's the difference between var and dynamic. That's one data type in Dart that you might not be familiar with. That's dynamic versus variable. Other operations are pretty much the same. We have addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Then we have equality comparators, equal to, not equal to. Then we have less than, greater than. This is and this is or. This is pretty much the same as in any other programming language. Next up, we have immutability. So what is immutability? Mutable means changeable, right? Immutable means that cannot be changed. So Dart uses const, two keywords, const and final, for values that don't change. When are we going to use const and when are we going to use final? We'll see that right now. The const, we are going to use const keyword for values that are not at compile time, and we are going to use final for values that are not at compile time. So what does this mean? It might be a little confusing. We'll see it right now. Let's see, we have a const num. Let's try to print num without giving any value. No, let's try to assign a value here. Num is equal to 10, and let's try running this. It says the const variable num must be initialized. So if you're going to use const keyword, you should give a value while you're declaring. Now this is going to work. This is a constant value. You're not allowed to change this. Now, what's the difference in final keyword then? Let's try to use a final keyword, and I'm not going to assign it anything right now. I'm going to assign it later. Let me see if this is going to allow this. If we try running this, it allows. Okay, so you don't need to give the value initially. You can initialize it later. But if you try to change this again, let's see what happens. It gives an error. Why? Final variable num might already be assigned. So it is already assigned, so you cannot assign it again. That's the use of final keyword. I hope till now it's clear. So if you have any doubts, let us know in the chats. I'm looking in the chat section. Yep. I'll wait for like 30 seconds in case you guys have any doubts. Let us know. Cool. I think it's clear. Let's move on. Next up is nullability. So we have already seen that Dart is null safe. So why is it null safe? We'll see it right now. Let's have a string name called John, and let's say we are going to assign null to this, and let's print name. You will get an error. The value null can't be assigned to a variable of type string because by default, all fields in Dart are not nullable. You can't assign a null value to a variable. What if you want to allow this? What we are going to do is after string, we are going to give a question mark. Now it's going to allow null values. Now when we try to print, it prints null. Why is this happening? Because name is a type which is nullable. How is it nullable? Because we gave a question mark after the data type. This question mark means that this name can be null. If you're making a field nullable, later when you're going to use it, you should probably check if this value is null or not. Otherwise, the value is never going to be null because it's not nullable. That's why we say this is null safe. Then we have a null aware operator. We have seen a nullable field here, right? Now we are going to use a new variable called, let's say, name2. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give name here, 2 question marks, and no name. I'm going to print name2. Now try running this. It printed no name. Why? What is happening here is we're assigning name value to this name2 as name. What does this double question mark mean? This double question mark means that if this name is null, assign this value to this variable. This is a null safe operator. It's checking whether this name is null. If this name is null, you're going to give this value. Let's say we are commenting this out. Let's now try printing this. Let's see what's the difference. It prints John Doe. Why? Because name is not null. So it assigns John, this value to this name2. And this is not evaluated. This is a null safe, null aware operator. Next thing is conditional statements like if statement. It is very similar to any other programming language. Let's say you have a variable called age, and let's say if age is greater than 5, print hello there. Else if age greater than 3, print hi. Else print something. It prints hello there. Why? Because this condition is true. If this condition is true, it will not check any other statements. It just skips and comes to this part. This is how if else if ladder works, similar to any other programming language. If you have different values here, it will evaluate based on the conditions that we have written here, and finally comes to the else statement. If nothing is triggered, it will print the else statement. This is conditional statements, very similar to any other programming language. Next up, we have collections in Dart. We're going to see two things, list and map for now. Let's see how to make a list in Dart. Let's say I have a list, and let's call it teams. Let's say we are going to add names of cricket teams here: India, Australia, England. Let's try to print this. It prints the list. This is the notation for list here. You have square brackets and you have comma separated values. This list is of type string. So you have all string values in here, and you're printing the list here. Okay, so someone has asked in the chats, can we get slides for notes purpose? Yeah, definitely. After the session, we can share the slides. Cool. I hope, yeah, we can move on. Okay, so we have made a list here. Let's say we want to add an element to this list. What we are going to do is teams.add. We're going to add, let's say, South Africa. Now try printing this. Let's say we want to remove something, and let's say we want to remove England. After that also we are going to print. Let's see the difference. Okay, at first it added South Africa to the list, then after that it removed England. These are some methods of a list that you can add and remove. If you click on each one of this, you can see the documentation here, which is really helpful. So if you have doubt in any of the functions, you can just go through this. It clearly explains what is the meaning of each function. Next up, we have something called a map. Map is nothing, but it's very similar to a dictionary in Python or a hash map in Java. I'm going to do something like string int. Let's give this name as test rankings. We're going to use curly braces for this. First up, let's say Australia, 119, India, 116, and New Zealand, 115. Now, let's say we want to get the test ranking of India. For that, let's try printing. How do we access the ranking of India? For that, what we can do is test ranking, test rankings, the name of this map. We're going to give the key, that's India. Okay, so now we got the ranking of India. What is this string and int over here? String is the type of the key, and int is the type of the value. These are basically key value pairs. This Australia, India, and New Zealand are the keys, and 119, 116, and 115 are the values. If you want to get the value based on a key, we will be doing this. Name of the map followed by square braces, and inside that, you're going to give the key. You can use this for multiple purposes. In Flutter apps also, we are going to use maps a lot, especially while you're calling an API and all. We'll be using maps a lot. So this is a very useful data structure. Cool, we have seen maps. Next up is function. How do you write a function in Dart? You have noticed we already have a function here, the main function. So the main function is the entry point for a Dart application. We're going to write another function on our own. Let's say hello. We're going to have two variables in here, name and greet. I'm just going to print. We're going to use $greet space $name. What is dollar here? We are doing something called a string interpolation, where inside you can inside two inverted commas you can write whatever string that you want. You can also use values of variables. So when we use this $greet, it will just add the value of the greet variable in here, and when you use $name, it will add the value of name here. That's how you add the values of a variable inside a string. Right now we are just gonna do this. We are clearing this map. Let's try to call this say hello. Let's have a variable called name. I'm gonna pass this as the first parameter, and for the greet I'm gonna pass hello. Try running this. It prints hello John Doe. How does this happen? These are the parameters of the function. First thing that we pass is the name. So this name has a value of John Doe. It is passed to this function. Then we have a variable called greet. And we are passing the value as hello. And it's printing hello John Doe. What if we do first pass hello and then pass name? It will print John Doe hello. Why? Because it is treating hello as the name and name as the greet. So this is called as positional parameters. It is evaluating based on the position of the parameters that you're passing. If the first thing that you're passing will be considered as a name, the second thing will be considered as a greeting. What if we don't want to do this? There's something called named parameters. For that, we're going to use curly braces here. We're going to use a keyword called require. So this required basically means that both these are mandatory. You have to pass these parameters in order to call this function. What we're going to do here is we're going to pass name as John Doe and greet as hello. Now try printing this. Let's try printing this now. It prints hello John Doe. Okay, now let's try to pass greet first and name second. It's running. It still prints hello John Doe. Why? Because it understands the variable based on the name. So we are passing greet specifically as hello and name specifically as John Doe. So the position doesn't really matter. It is just this name that we have to use the exact same name as we wrote in the function. This is named parameters. Next thing, what we have is what we call as anonymous functions. Let's say we have something called say hi, and we're going to assign it as braces, string name, string greet. We're going to use something called as a fat arrow. That is nothing but an equals symbol and a greater than symbol, and we are going to print $greet space $name. Now what we can do is we can call this as we call a function. I'm going to pass name and hello. Print this out for now. Okay, it says, oh, okay, it's a typing mistake. Yeah, it prints hello John Doe. So we have returned something called as an anonymous function here because we didn't write a function like this. We wrote a function inside our main function itself. We assigned it to a variable called say hi. What we are doing here is we are writing an anonymous function we are using something called as a fat arrow, and you are printing this line. So if you want a single line functions or something, you can do this. If you have multiple lines, you can use curly braces also, like this, instead of the fat arrow. Then you will be good to go. Let's see an application of anonymous function. We had the teams list before, right? The list has a function called map. What this is going to do is it is going to map each element to the function that we write inside this. We are using the anonymous function here. See, this is an anonymous function, and it is going to return this team dot to uppercase. What we are going to do here is we are going to map each element of this list, and we're going to convert it to a uppercase. Now, when we print this, what we're going to get is all capital letters: Australia, India, New Zealand, and England, everything in capital letters, in uppercase. This is a simple application of using anonymous function. Yeah, this is a small intro to Dart. Next up is we are gonna get started with Flutter. We're gonna make our first Flutter application. I hope till now everything is clear. Let me know in the chats if you guys have any doubts. For developing Flutter apps, what I usually use is VS Code. So for the session today, we will be using VS Code for making our apps. You can use any ID of your own. What I'm going to use is VS Code. Okay, if you guys have any doubts, let me know in the chats. Okay, someone says hello in the chat. Hello. I don't know your name. It says anonymous. Cool. I hope we can move on and get started with Flutter. I hope you have already installed Flutter. After you have installed Flutter, make sure that you have the following extension. It should be automatically installed. Just make sure that you have these extensions. I think it's Flutter itself. I have extension for Flutter. Then we have a extension called Dart. Then there is something called PubSpec Assist. We'll be using it later, maybe not needed for today's session. But yeah, this will help you. There's something called pubspec.yaml, and it's going to sync automatically with the project if you have this extension. Yeah, that's the necessary stuffs. Okay, so for creating a new project, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to use a shortcut in VS Code, Control-Shift-P. You have an option called Flutter New Project here. You're going to create a new project. You can just type down Flutter. You will see the options here. For me, it's showing a new project here. I'm going to click on New Project. And what type of Flutter thing are we going to create? We are going to create an application. So select Application. And we're going to select select location. So I'm going to select this folder of mine. I'm give any name that you like. I'm just going to give a random name right now, demo app. And for this session, I will be using Android emulator to run the application. If you have a physical device also, it's completely fine. You can use a physical device, connect it to your laptop and run it there. Make sure that you turn on USB debugging so that you can run on your physical device also. Yeah, our Flutter project is ready right now. By default, we will be getting an application like this. Let's try running this and see what is there, and then we will quickly see what is the meaning of these lines of codes. For running, you can use the key F5. For the first time, it might take some time. Till then, you also follow up. It will basically compile to the native code and install the app as an APK inside your Android device, if you're using Android device. By then, let's quickly see the project structure. You have different folders here: Android, build, iOS, lib. Inside the lib folder, you have main.dot file. This is the main file of our Flutter application. This is going to be the entry point of our application. Then we have a main function here, and inside this main function, it calls the run app method, and we are passing my app here. So what is this my app? My app is a class written here. It extends something called a stateless widget. We will see what is widgets, stateless, and stateful in a few moments. So while the app is building, let's quickly get back to our slides. What are widgets? So almost everything in Flutter, I would say almost, is a widget. Like what with text, buttons, containers, columns, rows, and everything else that you see on the screen is a widget. Widget is nothing but a component. So if you have used React or anything before, it's very similar to a component. So whatever you see on the screen is a widget, and we are going to use a lot of widgets in the upcoming sessions also. There are two types of widgets: stateless widgets and stateful widget. What's the difference between stateless and stateful? It's very simple. Stateless widget, a widget that can change when a user interacts with it, for example, it's stateful. Like it's not static, it's dynamic. Based on the user's interaction, it is going to be, it is going to change. So it's stateful. What is stateless? Stateless means it's a static thing. It's not going to change. So, yeah. I hope, let's see whether our app has been built. Yeah. Okay, so this is the default application that we will get whenever we start a project. You have something which says Flutter demo homepage. This is an app bar. Then you have a text which says you have pushed the button this many times, and you have a count here. You have a button, which is a floating action button with a plus icon. Let's click on this. This updates the text to 1. If we keep on clicking, it will just keep on adding the number. It will just give the number of times that we have clicked this button. How is this happening? We will see the code right now. We just said about stateless and stateful widgets. We are creating a class called myApp, and which has by default a build method. We have to override the build method. So what is a build method? Build method is basically where we define how the screen should look like. We're going to return widgets here, which will make the layout for your application. We're returning something called a material app. So we are going to follow the material design pattern throughout our application. This is the title of our application. You can give whatever title that you have. Another thing is theme. What is theme? So theme is basically the primary color, the text styles, etc. Right now, we are just setting the primary swatch here to a blue palette. It has different variants of blue here. Then we have an attribute called home. So what is home? Home is basically the first screen that is going to show up when you run your application. And that is what we are passing the value as my homepage. So where does this my homepage come from? You have written it here. My homepage is a class that extends the stateful widget. We just saw what is a stateful widget. The widget which changes when a user interacts. It's a stateful widget. It is extending the class stateful widget. The stateful widget should have a method called create state. We should override that, and we should return a state here. What is the state? State of an application is the current scenario, like how is the app looking right now. When you come to this application, you have a count right now. It says 16. When you click on it, click on the button again, it says 17. So the state of the app has changed from 16 to 17. Like the count has changed. So this entire state of the application has changed to a new state. Like uh, the current scenario of the app is changed. That is what we mean by a state. Okay, so for stateful widget, we should return a state, and we should create the state for our stateful widget class. We're extending the class state of type my homepage. So this is going to be a state of my homepage. So we are passing my homepage here. It has the build method, similar to inside a stateless widget, you directly write the build method. Inside a stateful widget, you write the build method inside the state. Inside the build method, you're going to return something called a scaffold. What is a scaffold? Scaffold basically gives the material theme attributes or the material design attributes to your screen, like the app bar, floating action button, and everything. And we have an app bar here. App bar is this thing that we see over here. And we are giving the title as Flutter demo homepage. We are passing this here as the title. So we are giving it as the title of the app bar. Then we have something called body. So body is going to be the body of this particular screen. And what we have here is a widget called center. So we have a lot of widgets like this: center, column, row, etc. What each one of it has a particular use. What's the use of a center widget? We need the content to be in the center of the screen, right? So we are going to use the widget called center. Inside that, there is something called there's an attribute called child. This is how usually widgets work in Flutter. Like you have a parent widget, inside that you have child attributes. That's how you nest widgets in Flutter. So inside your center widget, you have a child widget called column. And inside column, you have a field called children. And inside children, you can have multiple items. So when should we use a column? When you want to arrange items in a vertical fashion, you should be using a column. There's something called row. When you want to arrange something in a horizontal fashion, you have to use a row widget. Right now, we are going to use a column widget. There's something called main axis alignment. There are a lot of attributes like this. You can explore it. What is main axis alignment? The main axis for a column is the vertical axis, and there is something called cross axis also. So the cross axis for a column is the horizontal axis. So the main axis alignment should be center, which means it should be aligned to the center of the column. And then we have an attribute called children. That's where you're going to add this text and this count text over here. You have a constant text here. You have pushed the button this many times, and you have another text with value. You are using $_counter. So what is this underscore counter? This underscore counter is a variable inside the state, and we are given the initial value as 0. So when you run the application, the initial value was 0. So it was read from this only. And when you click on this floating action button, so where is the on click for this floating action button written? It has an attribute called on pressed, and we are passing the function called increment counter. We have written the increment counter function here, and inside this increment counter, we're just incrementing the counter. Notice that we have used something called set state. So this is the most important part here. That's why we are using a stateful widget. You're using something called a set state, and inside that you're increasing the counter value. What is happening here is you increase the counter value, and when you set state, it will just call the build method again. So first the counter value was 0. When you click on this button, what happens is it increments the counter value and calls the build method again. So when the build method is called again, the text inside this has the value of new counter, and it is 80. So that's how we update the value of the screen. So that's why we need to use a stateful widget. Since we are using stateful widget, we are getting the set state function. Otherwise, we can't call the set state function. That's the use of stateful widget. That when we call the set state method, it will just call the build method again. It will rebuild the UI. That's basically the intro about the default application that you will get when you make a new Flutter project. We have something called a widget tree in Flutter, where, as we saw right now, we have something called a material app, homepage, and everything. It just has a hierarchy. This is how the hierarchy of widgets is decided inside your Flutter application. You will have nested elements like column. Inside this column, you will have different children, and that should be on the same level. Inside the scaffold, this app bar and column are on the same level because they are both the children of the scaffold. Okay, this tree goes on increasing as you have more and more widgets inside your screen. This is what we call as widget tree. Now, what we are going to do is we are going to apply the same concept that we saw just now of using a stateful widget, and we are going to make a simple application where you're going to learn about adding an image to your project, uh, adding a stateful widget, adding a button, navigating to another screen, and using a text field. So you have a button called go to next screen here. So you might have, many of you might have guessed right now, we have a second screen, and second screen looks like this. It has a text field and a button, and when you click on the button, it will show something called a snack bar, which is nothing but a block of text which will be shown for a short duration of time. It will just say hello, whatever name that you have typed here. We are gonna make this right now. For that, what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna create a new file here. I'm gonna call it like screen dot. Write class like screen. It is gonna extend stateful widget. Shows an error. So see the quick fixes for the error. Just click on control plus period or the control plus greater than symbol. It will just say create one missing override. So we have to override one function. Just click on that. It will just add the function for you. It is the create state function. So here we have to return the state. We're going to return something called like screen state. Will still show the error because we haven't made this yet. So right now we are going to make a state. We're going to call it like screen state, and we're just going to extend state of type like screen. It also shows an error. To see the quick fix, let's do the same thing and create the missing override. You should override the build function. We're going to return here a scaffold. Scaffold, as we said, basically gives the material look for our screen. And this, we are going to have an app bar. For the app bar attribute, we are going to pass the app bar widget, and we have a title. Let's see how the app should look like in our slides. Yeah, it has a title of Flutter Festivals. Let's give the title as is expecting a widget, so we are passing text widget here and passing it as Flutter Festivals. Whenever you have constant values like this, always use const keyword. So that is the standard. It's the best practice to do. We have an app bar here. Next thing is an image that we have here. So we have an image. We have a heart or a like icon here. You have a like count and a button. All these things are arranged in a vertical manner, right? What we are going to do right now is we're going to add the body of the scaffold. It's just going to be a column. Why is it a column? Because we need elements to be in a vertical fashion. And inside the children attribute, we're going to pass image. For an image, we are going to use image.asset, and we should pass the path to the image. And the width, let's say we are going to give 600. How are we going to add an image to our application? First of all, we should have an image inside our folder. You can use any image of your choice. I'm just going to use a random image that is here. I'm just going to copy this, go to my project folder, demo app. Inside this, I'm going to make a new folder called, let's say, assets. And inside the assets folder, I'm just going to copy this. And here I'm going to give it as asset slash, let's see the name. Yeah, gdsc vit flutter.png. Whatever file name you have, you give it here. Now try running this. Inside the main.dart, still we have the home screen as my home page, right? Instead of this my home page, what we're going to pass here is like screen. So now try running this. You should get an error. Yeah, we got an error. Let's see what is the error. The error is inside the image provider.dart. What is this error is? In order to use an image asset or any other asset inside your Flutter application, you should always specify it in the file called pubspec.yaml. So this pubspec.yaml is inside the root folder of your project. This is where you handle the version number, version code, SDK, and all other dependencies. When you are going to make a real-time application, you're going to have a lot of dependencies, and inside this is where you're going to add dependencies. And yeah, when you scroll down, there is a section called assets. Let's find assets here. Yeah, it's here. I'm going to uncomment this. Inside this, we are going to give a path to our asset slash gdsc vit flutter dot png. Press save. When you press save, it will run flutter pub get automatically. That's why we have that's happening automatically due to the Dart extension that we have. Otherwise, you will have to open the terminal and run the command flutter pub get. Whenever you make a change in pubspec.yaml, you will have to sync it with your project. That's how it works. Now let's try restarting the app. Let's see if it is working. Yeah, we got the image here. This is how you add an image to your project. Whenever you want to add a static image, you should always give inside the pubspec.yaml that you should specify your assets here. That's how you add an image. Next thing up is a heart icon and the like count. Both these items are two widgets, and it is happening. It is coming on the same row, right? So for that, the next child of the column inside the like screen is going to be something called a row. We're going to add the widget called row. And inside the row, there are two children. First one is the icon, and second one is the like count. Okay. For that, there is a widget called icon. Inside this, right now we're going to pass a static icon. You have a class called icons, and you can access a lot of icons that are already in Flutter. Icons dot this thing is called favorite outline, and I'm going to give the size as let's say 40. Next thing is a text. Right now I'm going to give a static text as 100 likes. Let's try to run this. Yeah, we have an icon, we have a text here, but this is not what we expect from this application, right? This should be clickable, and whenever the user clicks on this like button, it should increase the like count by 1, and it should make this icon filled. And when the user clicks on this again, it should come back to the outlined model, and it should reduce the like by 1. How are we going to do this? For that, we are going to use set state method. We are going to use two variables here. One is an icon data. We're going to call this icon, and initially it has a value icons dot favorite outline. Favorite outline. It's icon data. We have an integer called like count. Initially it's set to 0. Cool. You have an icon data and like count here. Inside this, instead of giving this directly, I'm going to give this value as underscore icon and the like count as dollar underscore like count. Now try running this. Okay, so we have a icon here. Let's see, we want the outlined one, right? So favorite outline, let's give that outlined. Okay, let's just hover on this and which one is the icon. You want the bordered one. Okay, so it's favorite border outlined. I'm just restarting it. Okay, so you have this thing called outline border icon and the like count here. Now it's kind of dynamic, but nothing happens when you click on this, right? For that, what we are going to do is, in order to write a click listener for icon, you cannot directly write a click listener for an icon. For that, what we are going to do is we are going to wrap the icon inside something called an inkwell widget. For adding a click listener to any element, you can use two things. One is a gesture detector, and the one is an inkwell. The inkwell, what's the difference between gesture detector and inkwell? Inkwell just adds the ripple effect. Like when you click on it, you get a ripple effect inside the widget. That's just the difference. I will to wrap a widget with another widget. Just click on this control plus period, and you can scroll down and find wrap with widget thing. Press enter and give the widget name here. I'm going to give inkwell. And as a child, we have this icon, and we have a function called we have an attribute called on tap here. And inside on tap, what we are going to do is we're going to write an anonymous function here. See, we are using an anonymous function that we just saw before. We're going to set the icon as icons dot favorite. It will be the filled one, yes. And we are going to increase the like count also. Make this initially 100, and when it clicks, it should become like count 101. Let's try clicking this. Let's try restarting this. Okay, so when you click on this, you can see the ripple effect here, but nothing really happens. Why? Because we just wrote to change the icon and like count, but it's not rebuilding the screen, right? For that, that's why where we are going to use the thing called set state. That's why we are using a stateful widget. Inside the set state function, you're going to do this icon. You're going to change this icon and add this like count. Let's now try. I just formatted the codes. For the shortcut for formatting in VS Code, as you already know, is Alt Shift plus F. Now let's try running this. Let's restart this actually. Okay, you have an outlined icon here and 100 likes. Click on this. It adds 101 likes. If you click on again, it just keeps on adding the likes. That's not what we want, right? When it is clicked again, it should come back to the outline thing and it should reduce the like count by 1. For that, we're going to check if underscore icon is already icons dot favorite outline. We're just checking the initial condition. If it's already this, make this filled and increase the like count. Else, we're going to set this to back and we're going to reduce the like count. Now let's try restarting this. Let's see what's the change. When you click on this, it increases the like count. When you click on this again, it decreases the like count and it comes back to the original form. This is what we need right now. I'm going to give something called main axis size as main axis size dot max and main axis alignment. What we did right now is there is something main axis for a row is the horizontal row, a horizontal axis. So we're going to set the main axis as max, which means the entire width of the screen. We're going to align the items of the row to center. That's what it means by main axis alignment dot center. We just centered this thing. Next thing up is we have a button here. For that, after the row, if you come here, the comment is already here, like row. After that, you're going to add another thing called an button. There are different kinds of button. I'm going to use something called an elevated button. Inside that, we are going to have an anonymous function where we are going to navigate to the next screen. As a child, we will have a text called go to next screen. We'll make this constant because this is never going to change. So we have a button here. Let's make the second screen right now. The second screen should look like this. It has app bar, the text field, and a button. Let's create a new file called text underscore screen dot dot. We're gonna follow the same steps. We're gonna give a name for the class text screen. It's gonna extend a stateful widget. We should have a create state function, which should return a state. It's gonna return a text screen state. We have to make this text screen state. For that, I make a class called text screen state which extends from state. We should have a build function inside this. This is exactly the same thing that we did in the previous screen. Here also we're going to return a scaffold with an app bar, and the title of the app bar is going to be text screen. It should be a widget, so we're going to wrap this with a text widget. This is also going to be constant. And then we have body of the screen. This is going to be a column because everything is arranged in a vertical fashion, as you might see here. We have a text field and a button. Let's add a text field as children. So we give children. The first child is going to be a text field. To give the labels and everything, we're going to use something called as decoration of the text field. It's going to be an input decoration class, and we are going to pass the border as something called outline input border. So just call this outline input border. It will give us this design. There are different kinds of borders available. Right now we are going to use something called outline input border so that we have a floating label. Then we should specify the label. The label text is going to be name. That's it. Then we have a button. After this text field, we're going to use same elevated button as we used before. Should write something inside this, and as a text, I'm going to give as submit. It's also going to be constant. So everything that is not going to change in your application, make that widgets constant. Let's now try get back to our like screen, and inside this click of this button, I'm going to call a class called navigator dot push. I'm going to pass something called context, and we're going to pass material page route, something called as material page route, which has a builder. So inside this, we are going to specify the class that we should take the user to when it is clicked. Okay, now let's try to click on this and let's see if it is taking us to the next screen. Yes, it takes us to the next screen. It has an app bar, says text screen. It has a text field and it has a button, but nothing really happens when you click on this button, right? You have to click. We had tried the click listener or the what happens inside the on pressed here. How to get the text inside this text field when the user clicks on the button? For that, we're going to use something called as text editing controller. Let's say we have something called txt controller. We're going to initialize it as text editing controller. And inside this text field, we're going to specify the controller of this text field is going to be this particular text controller object that we created here. Now, when the user clicks on this button, we can access this using txt_controller.text. Now, we want to show something called a snack bar, as we said, which is nothing but some a block of text that is shown for some time, a very short duration of time. For that, we're going to use something called scaffold messenger dot of context. So we are going to pass the context of this application. So context is nothing but the current context of the application, currently where the app is standing. That's the context of the app. We're gonna call the function called show snack bar, and we should pass a snack bar object there. We're gonna make a snack bar object here. The content is going to be, content is usually a text. So we're gonna pass a text here as hello. We're going to use string interpolation here and call the txt controller dot text. We should close this here. We are enclosing this inside curly braces because we are accessing an attribute of this text controller. So we should use dollar followed by curly braces. Cool. Let's now try running this. Let me enter name here. Let's click on submit. It says hello John. Let's change the name to something else. Hey Sam. It says hello Sam. So it is getting the text from the text field and it is showing it inside the snack bar. In case you want to add some padding for this text field, what we can do is there is a padding widget. So you can enclose this, wrap this text field with a padding widget. For that, just go to text field, click on control plus period. There is directly wrapped with padding here. And that there is a padding attribute inside this. I'm going to give 16 as padding. Let's see how it looks now. Yes, it got a padding right now. You might have noticed that it has already added a back button for us. If you click on the back button, it takes us to the previous screen. The previous screen is also working, like the like count is increasing and the icon is also changing. If you click on the go to next screen, it takes you to the next screen and you type something here, click on submit. It shows the message as hello plus whatever name you typed in here. So that's the app that we were supposed to build. Let's get back to the slides and see whether we have done everything. Yes, we added an image. We saw how to add a stateful widget. We saw how to add a button, navigating to the next screen, and a text field and getting data from the text field. So here there is one thing like a banner called debug here, right? What if we don't want to show this? Just go to the main dot. Inside your material app, there is a thing called debug show check mode banner. Set it to false. Now you won't see that debug thing inside your. Anyway, you're not going to see that debug banner when you're going to actually build the production version of your app. But in debug mode also, you don't want to see that. You can always do this debug show check mode banner, set it to false. I hope you guys were following with me. In case you have any doubts, let us know in the chats. We'll be waiting for like 2 more minutes for your queries. After that, we can wind up for today, I guess. We'll see in the upcoming sessions. So for the upcoming sessions, make sure that you are following our social media handles on Instagram, Facebook, or any other platform that you're on, Twitter, anything. Keep checking on the social media handles. We'll be posting updates about upcoming sessions. So we will see more about Flutter in the upcoming sessions. Yeah, thank you everyone who joined today. Thanks for attending the session. We'll have a lot more fun in the upcoming sessions. So cool, I guess we can wind up for today. Bye guys. Thank you.